Did one of those you live and you learn moments. Figured out that when you got 5,000, 5,500 pounds of rock in your trailer, you shouldn't roll up on a curb, half on the curb, half in the yard, and then dump it. Because now this leaf spring, which I'll show in a picture at the end of this, is flat as a damn pancake. And because of that, this right here, you can see where it's clean. It's just slamming against the frame because there's no give whatsoever. So now we're going to put in a new spring. Here we go. I tell you, it's always one thing or another. So underneath here, there's U-bolts right there. Those 4 right there. I have to pop those loose, and then this axle will come loose and sit on the jack, and then I can pop the springs loose. But because the threads are so deep, see how deep that is? The only one that'll fit is a deep socket, which I have, and this fits. However, I don't have a ratchet that'll fit it. This big ass socket only goes to this one. My big mama jama, I don't have an adapter, I don't have anything. So then I break out the breaker bar, and the breaker bar is too big to fit in there, which is what I was going to use to do it. So I was like, all right. So I went and got my big mama jamma here. Now this is a normal breaker bar, and this is an actual ratcheting, you know, a steelworker's ratchet. And this isn't deep enough because the insert sits like right here. So it's bottoming out and won't let me reach. So I have all these tools, and literally everything's just too small or just too big, and I can't do a damn thing tonight. And I got this truck, I got the trailer all, it's, so I'm just going to leave it just like this. And then in the morning, I guess I'm going to go pick up a Duralast socket, deep socket, that'll fit the breaker bar, so I can take off the damn bolts behind there. Alright, well, I guess I'm going in for the night. So we went and got the correct size socket, which is a 22 in Duralast talk, and then started getting the bolts off and found out that they were bent too, so they wouldn't unthread for shit. So I unthreaded them as best I could, busted out the little grinder, and I just cut them off. So now I got a jack underneath the axle holding it up. We're going to go ahead and get this off and that off and put the new gear in, put the axle back down, put the new U-bolts on, and hopefully that'll go without any issue, but we'll see. Alright, talk to you guys later. Alright, so because I don't have an impact, or at least a big one, I watched the trailer guy, and he taught me a trick. So you set the breaker bar up and angle it to the ground, and that acts as a brace, and then you just pop the nut loose on the back, and you can just loosen it right up. Don't loosen it all the way and let it hit the ground, because you want to go over here and do the other side next, and then kind of take them off at the same time. And then I'm just going to wire brush it all, clean it up nice, and then put everything back together. Alright, so we got the spring back in, and according to my trailer guy I watch on YouTube, he puts them in backwards, so the bolts on this side and the nuts on the other side. That way there, if it starts walking itself out, it just falls out over here and doesn't shred your tire. So I thought that was actually a pretty good idea, and he owns a huge shop, so he must know what the hell he's talking about. So in your axle, this little boot right here, alright, is welded to your axle, and there's a little nub, basically just for centering on the spring. So actually there's a hole in this, there's a nub on this. So when you put your spring back on, your axle has to line up with that nub, and then it'll just pop back down on top of the spring. Mine wasn't lined up because this spring is different from the factory just a little bit. So what I did was I used the hammer, and I just kind of wedged it and just kind of pushed it a little bit as best I could, and it actually popped right down inside, so it was good. So now we're putting the U-bolts on. I got them hand tightened, And I'm going to make sure that's a good placement for them. And we're just going to tighten these up. I don't like the fact that they're tension bolts and not, I forget what they're called. The bolts that kind of seal on themselves and don't come back off. So we'll tighten them up and see how that goes. And then I'm going to take it for a spin down the road and then come back and check underneath. Make sure everything still looks good. Give it a lift. Make sure everything's as it should be. And hopefully this fixes the problem. Because this right here on the other spring was slamming into the frame. You can see where all the marks were because the spring was so flexed out. It was off by an inch with the compared. I should have taken a picture. This spring compared to my old one, even though it is a little bit different, it was off by almost an inch. So I'm hoping that made the difference. If it didn't, I'm going to replace the other leaf set over there because that looks kind of flat too. Now that I'm looking at it, it does look kind of flat. I might just take it down to the trailer place and have them look at it and make sure I'm not just seeing things or I'm missing something altogether if this doesn't fix it. So I'll let you know here in a little bit.